and welcome to an especially practical edition of Ben's Junk. So this is intended as an addendum to last week's archive episode, which was on Video8, 8mm video. And given that archive started out its first year shot on Digital8, and given that I still occasionally use the format, and given that this camcorder is my only current means of dealing with 8mm video at all, and given that this camcorder is, in a lot of ways, still the heart of Oddity Archive, I figured it was about time I devoted a video to it. So with that, this is a Sony DCR-TRV320 Digital 8/High 8 camcorder. This model was introduced in 2000. It was purchased by my parents, I believe, that year. That is, if an old Red Lobster receipt I found used as a bookmark in the manual is anything to go by. And they didn't even take me along for that meal. Anyway, this thing was used by my father, who dabbled in real estate at the time, and he used it for the dual purpose of shooting video and especially stills of people's houses that he'd been hired to sell, for the flyers and all. So anyway, fast forward to 2009, and my dad offered this camcorder to me, and yes, I had borrowed it a few times over the years, but otherwise he was just going to throw it out. And given that I didn't own a camcorder at all, of course I took it off his hands. So anyway, let me try and give a rundown of the features of this guy, at least the big ones. Now, I mentioned that my dad shot video and took stills on this. And like a lot of camcorders of this period, you could take still images on videotape. And what it would do is, in this case, it would latch onto a single frame of video, hang on to it for 7 seconds, and would capture whatever incidental audio happened to occur during that time. And we're doing the 7-second still image thing, and the time's about to run out, so I better shut up now. But this was also a dedicated digital camera, and you could take regular photos onto a Sony, of course, proprietary, it is Sony, memory stick, if you remember these things. And it would load right next to where the tape would go. So if I can get to that, you can see the slot for it right at the tip of my finger. But of course, the memory stick was an early flash media format. And, it looked like a stick of chewing gum and came in these handy-dandy little self-collapsing plastic caddies, which weren't always the most reliable things to try and get them out of, but it looks like it's playing nice today. And, of course, this being still at least kind of sort of the age of the 3.5-inch diskette, you could get an adapter. And I've still got my parents' old one here. And these things run on a couple of button batteries, but I've never bothered to replace them because there's just better means of taking pictures off of a memory stick than one of these, instead of having to, hook up a 3.5-inch drive to a more modern computer. But anyway, the stick would just go in the side, like so, if I can make the camera focus. And that was that. But of course, as I said, 3.5-inch floppy was kind of on the way out at the time, so third parties started coming around and putting out stuff like this, kind of this little quasi-prelude to flash drive sort of thing. So you can open it up, and you can stick, if I can make the camera focus, stick your memory card right in there. And the diagram is wrong on this. That's always the mark of quality. But getting back to the camcorder here, I couldn't tell you in a million years what the resolution of this thing is in terms of megapixels, since we're still talking stills here. But I'd be willing to bet it's less than a megapixel. But either way, the quality, both stills and video, to me has just never been too impressive, especially indoors. All right, let's see how well this thing does with focusing. Not bad. That's as tight as I can go. Now, it's pretty well known that I use this camcorder for just about all of my video transfers. I have run VHS, Betamax, U-matic, Laserdisc, CED, video game footage, computer footage, and on and on and on through this thing. And even though there's fancier gear out there now, this thing has always been able to take whatever I throw at it and give me a completely uncompressed, natural-looking transfer. Just about as close as I've ever been able to get to reproducing what it's actually like to sit there and watch the tape or disc or whatever in person. Now, on a potentially more nefarious note, with rare exceptions, this unit bypasses macrovision and stop copy and all that. The only time I've ever had this choke on me is trying to record a macrovision encoded program onto 8mm tape. And the only reason I was doing that was I was reading all this stuff about copy protection in the manual, and I was thinking, I've never had that problem. And I realized that it probably only engages when it's in record mode. And sure enough, but of course, given that the end game for me is usually to transfer video onto the computer, so we're talking video source to camcorder to computer, in this case via FireWire. As far as the camcorder is concerned, it isn't recording, so it just passes along the signal. Now, of course, the vast majority of the video material I cover on Archive was just a bit low on the commercial totem pole for things like encryption, so again, it's not really much of a concern for me. Now, this camcorder doesn't quite have all the bells and whistles for inputs and outputs. There's no coax, unsurprisingly. There's no component video, and this predates HDMI. But it works for just about everything that I would ever cover. I mean, it's pretty rare that I need anything beyond composite or S-video. And if I do have something that's coax only, I can just run it through an RF modulator or a VCR, and I'm golden. This is one of those deals where the manual, just in English, runs 120 odd pages. So trying to do and explain everything possible with this thing would be a fool's errand. So instead, to close things out for today, I just want to show off some footage involving various effects and such that are built in, just to give you a further idea of the basic capabilities and general flavor of this thing. But otherwise, that is it for today. I'll talk to you again soon. Okay, let's try some of the general effects. So I'm going to take a cut here and we'll do fade in. Alright, we got a fade in there. See if it'll do the same going back out. Mosaic fader, which is so cool, isn't it? Alright, let's see if we can do the same going back out here. Oh, Lord. Some of these I haven't tried before, believe it or not. Let's see if we can make it do the same going back out here. Oh, doesn't look like it's going to give me the option. Oh well, let's try a different one going back out. Fade to black. Overlap, which I believe took me from the previous shot. But I don't know what it'll do going out, so let's find out together. Oh, little miniature dream sequence there. Ooh. Wipe transition. And dot transition. Ooh, purdy. Alright, so I'm in super night shot mode right now, which is for total darkness. I've got it as dark as I can get in here right now. And as you can probably tell, it's kind of screwing with the frame rate and also the focus abilities. So let me turn this down to just basic night shot. There we go, and it gives me some control and some clarity back. As you can see, it's the middle of the day when I'm doing this. Still not planning to do any paranormal stuff, though. And here we stand at the gates of hell. Never thought I'd have cobblestone anything. And I really need to do something about the leaves. Get a good bright sunshiny shot here. And as I'm doing this, I'll run through some stupid little effects that I can add on. Help.
Being cool, you'll find.
Hi
Is a
guys.
state of mind.
Nice leg.
A refreshing attitude.
Come on, shortcut.
Things get hot. Cool is all you got.